Hey everybody, how's it going out there in Hobbyland? Hunter coming back at you from Showtime Studios. Gonna do the third and final part of the how to assemble the model car garage piano hinges. And I'm gonna give you a couple pointers, and that's gonna be it on this series. I think a lot of people have enjoyed the tutorial so far, and hopefully you've learned a couple of tricks to it. Like always, it's not the only way it can be done, but it works for my builds, and you know, I've had good luck with it, so that's why I put it out there, and I explain it exactly the way that I do it, and hopefully, you know, everybody can pick up something from it, and you know, give them a try, and hopefully it works out for you. If it doesn't, you know, just shoot me a PM or a message or whatever, and you know, just ask a question, and I'll see if I can help you out on that. So what we're going to do first is, got Ben's cab here, and I'm going to turn this over. And I guess as everybody knows, I did the mock-up on this hinge here. This is the one we put together in the second video, and I installed it just very quickly into Ben's cab. It's got just a very small touch of super glue on it. Nothing crazy. And just to mock it up and to try something, because we decided to do functioning door handles, and actually worked on that last night. It came out real good. For those of you that haven't seen the video on that, basically what we have is when you rotate the door handle on the cab, it unlocks the door, and you can swing the door open just like that, and drop the door back into place, and rotate the door handle to the level position, and it is now locked into place. Came out pretty good. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and it's a very simple trick to do, but I'm not going to get into how you go about doing that. But the one thing I do want to touch on is I was going to give you some pointers on using the .014 brass rod, and the reason why I use it. And to show you, this hinge is assembled. The pin is a little bit long in it. I did not cut the pin off yet. And actually, I don't cut off the long section of pin until very final assembly. And I figure out exactly what length it needs to be, and then I cut it at that point. But what I did is I just pushed the top of that pin down in the hinge. And I've got about probably about 3/16 of an inch sticking out the bottom of the piano hinge here. And the neat thing about assembling these hinges and, you know, making sure that everything is in place right is you can come in on a lot of your trucks and you can actually pull the hinge pin out of the door. And what that does is allow you to take the door, let me get it released here. It allows you to take the door off of the truck, and you have the piano hinge half attached to the door and the other half attached to the cab. Now, when I did my painted hinges on my GMC Astro, this is the way that I done it, and I put a temporary pin in just to paint the cab and everything, and that's when I ended up with a little bit of chipping in between the fingers there, and we're not going to get into that whole discussion. I won't be painting any more hinges. Actually, when you paint them, it makes them look bulkier anyway. If I had the Astro to do over again, I would do it just as a raw finished photo etch part, which is silver. But the other thing that's neat about doing this, when you have everything lined up exactly the way that it needs to be lined up, as you can see, I got the door laying here, I got the cab here. I'm going to go ahead and drop the door back into place, lined up on the hinge. And this can be a little tedious, but it can be done, and it has its uses, especially when you're trying to fit things and, you know, get everything to line up and be true, and this comes out very well doing it this way. The one thing that I have found on putting the pin back in roll the pin in your fingers as you press forward. And you don't want to press forward very hard, because if you catch the edge of one of the rounded over hinges, it will bend it. So you don't want to put a load against it that way. But as you can see, I've spun that pin all the way back in there, and it's actually sticking out of the top edge of the piano hinge there. And that's what I do when I'm mocking everything up. I would actually drop this in from the top, and then that way it sticks up here. It looks like a big giant antenna, but it allows me just to temporarily have the doors in place. And like if I'm doing a video, or I'm doing taking photos of the in progress work, it allows me to be able to do that, but still remove the pin very easily out of the door to you know, maybe tweak the door jambs, or paint the door jambs, things like that. I do like to paint the jambs, like this section back behind the door. I like to paint that with the door out of the way. And to do that, all I do is just go in and grab a hold of my hinge pin. And you will notice that I'm twisting this as it comes out of the piano hinge. And there it's out. And we just pick the door up, set it off to the side, and you can go in and do any work you need to do in here. A little bit of trimming. Say your panel line, your gap around the outside of the door may not be totally exactly the way you want it. This allows you to be able to take the door off and take a sanding stick and come in and sand the edge of the door, or the top of the door, or the front of the door, or whatever. So that's a pretty handy thing to do. Now, if you do try this, and you've got these assembled, and you put it together just the way I showed you, you make a removable pin. Like I say, be very, very careful. Don't let anything hit or smash any of these little fingers, because if you do, it's going to be very hard, if not impossible, to straighten that out and make it look right in the future. So be very aware of the piece on the cab and on the door if you've separated them like this. Because you don't want to mess it up once you've got to this point. So hopefully that gives everybody a quick rundown on the Model Car Garage piano hinges. I know a lot of people have said they bought them and they haven't had any luck with them. It's not a fault of the product. It's a very nice product. It works very well. I've showed you some of the tricks that I use to put them together. As you can see, it works for me. So, you know, give it a shot. It takes a little bit of practice and it takes some patience, but if you're a fairly accomplished modeler, you can do this. Now, I also do not recommend this for a beginning modeler. I do not recommend it for somebody that's built 1 or 2 models. And I don't recommend it for people that have not somewhat mastered their modeling basics. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get yourself in trouble. Because you don't have the experience yet to be able to go in and visually see everything that needs to be changed before you start cutting things apart. So what's going to happen is you're going to go in, you're going to cut the doors out of a cab, and you're going to think that basically this is all there is to it, just putting this hinge in and you're done. That's not the case. There's a lot more involved in it. Like Ben, you know, he scratch built the jambs in here. You know, that's part of it. And another thing that I wanted to touch on real quick here, and I'm going to flip the cab over to the other side to show this. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this door out of place since we got the pin out of it right now. And I'm going to set it to the side so we can show you this next part here. And you notice I set it on a piece of plastic, and I've got the cab supported so that the piano hinge is not resting on the workbench. Another little trick that I wanted to show everybody, and this is about as far as I'm going to go with how you set it up on your cab and make it work. As you can see, Ben does have the door jambs in there. I do my door jambs all the way around. He did them from the right behind the windshield here, up and over and around. I put a lip all the way around mine. Most of the time, you know, your one-to-one trucks probably aren't going to have a lip all the way around them, but I do it anyway. It just makes a more consistent opening when you have the doors open at a show. But you can do it either way you want to. But to give you an idea on how these hinges will work for you, this is the door dropped into position, and there is a small gap right here between the cab and the door. And actually on the other side I had to enlarge this gap a little bit to be able to get the whole assembled hinge assembly down into the door. Now remember that if you put the hinge together, and when you set the hinge into this gap to do your test fitting, if you drop the hinge all the way down until the little fingers that are rolled over are touching the outer part of the cab and the door, that is the lowest depth that you can set that hinge. Now what's going to happen with that is that creates your lowest swing point, which means when this door swings open, it's going to swing very, very close to the cab. And what you can do to adjust that is you can glue the hinge on pulled out a little bit. So you have more of the flat part of the hinge kind of sticking out a little bit past the door and the cab, and then the fingers round over. And that way when you open the door, it gets the front leading edge away from the cab so you don't have any clearance issues. So that's, you know, a little trick that you can try. I call it setting the depth of the hinge because that's basically what you're doing. So you have, you know, like on this door, it's about 40 thousandths thick. You have about 20 thousandths play room there to slide that hinge up and down before you glue it into place. And like I say, that'll set the depth and make the door swing closer to the cab or further away from the cab. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your hinges. And if you have any questions or concerns on the Model Car Garage hinges, just shoot me a message and I'll be more than glad to get back to you. And I'm going to let you go on that today. Like always, I thank you for watching, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.